Hello and welcome. I'm Wes, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And to those who have subscribed, there's a lot of new subscribers. Thank you. That's why I do new videos, because you want them. And I appreciate it very much. I'm here just to spread information for those that want it. Today, I want to talk about ghosts and demons. What are they? Are they real? Are they fake? Well, we'll get into each one. Let's first talk about ghosts. We need to define what a ghost is, first of all. And there's a couple of definitions. The first definition is the ghost is a spirit or energy of a person that lives on after its death. The spirit or energy of a person that lives on after its death and haunts people. That's what most people think of as ghosts. And it's a controversial issue, because if you've seen a ghost or think you've seen a ghost, well, you're going to believe it. And if you haven't seen a ghost, you may never believe it, because I think that fear of death, people want to believe they're a ghost, because then that means that there is some kind of life after death. So they want to believe in ghosts. That way, the blackness and nothingness of death is eased. But that is just part of it, because there is energy that lives on when a person dies. There is energy there, and you can't destroy energy. It has to go somewhere and do something. Now, we can have a discussion later on whether the energy that leaves the body after you die has consciousness or not. It may, or it may not. But we want to talk about this haunting, the visions that people see and hear that they call ghosts. First, I want to talk about my own personal story. Years ago, living in Lowell, Massachusetts, I lived in a old building that was used for nuns and priests for a rectory across the street. And that alone, to me at the time, made it a little spooky. But one day I was going out to put the trash out back. And I went out the door, and I put the trash in the barrel, and I turned around to go back in, and the door was locked. And it only took 2 seconds to put the trash in the barrel, turn around, and go back in, and the door's locked. And it was an eye hook and latch. So it had to be actually latched. It wasn't like an automatic locking door that I forgot to lock. No, this had to be actually locked. And I screamed into my wife at the time, "Hey, did you lock me out?" And I knew, because she was all the way across the house, that it would be impossible for her to come there and lock the door. And she said, "No, I didn't lock the door." So I thought that was very strange and odd. I didn't know how the door could lock itself and lock me out. So it gave me an odd feeling, and I was curious about it. And then about 3 or 4 days later, I'm laying down on the couch, and I wanted the light off, so I got up and I walked across the room, and I bent down and I clicked up the lamp. Had a turn type of switch on it, and I turned the lamp off, and I went back down and laid on the couch. And then I heard a bang, boom, and the light went on, and the lamp shook. And it scared me. It startled me. And I didn't know what just happened. And I got up and I went into the bedroom and I asked my wife, did you make a noise? Did you throw something against the wall or something or anything? She said, no. I said, did you hear a noise? She said, yes. And I told her the light went on by itself, made a noise, and it shook. And at that point, I was believing that the house was haunted. And because I believed that the house was haunted, I started to see other things out of the corner of my eye. I'd catch a shadow moving past the window, or a face at night as the lights were dim. And my wife had already believed the house was haunted, so now I was beginning to believe it was, and now I'm starting to see things. And then, one day, as I was going out the back door, and I came back in, I let the door go, and the door slammed, and I turned around, and it was locked. The same door. And that's when I realized that if the eye hook was sitting down and the door slammed, it would swing up and latch itself and lock. It wasn't a ghost, it was just me. I did it. Just the way that I closed the door, it slammed. So I went into the living room and I examined the light a little more and the table that it was on. And it had a table where if you leaned on it, it would compress because it was thin. And then as you walked away, it would pop back up. And when I turned the light, and I tried this out, and I turned the light, and I turned it so it was just almost on, but not on. And I pushed on the table, and it went pop, and the light went on. And I realized there's no ghost. I did it. Myself. And that's when I realized all these other things I've been seeing and these shadows are created because I believed there was a ghost. Not that there actually was. So maybe you're beginning to understand where I'm going with this. Here's another story. In China, over 150 years ago, most of the ghosts in China were women. And in different cultures, ghosts are children, more children. Here in the United States, there's a lot of women as well, and children. There are some men. But we're talking about 100 years ago in China. There was a lot of women, mostly 90% of the ghosts. Why was this? Well, a theory is, ghost people would, if they believed in this and they wanted to believe there was life after death, they would believe that people that they've done wrong, because in China 150 years ago, women were treated horrible. They weren't treated as equal, they were treated terrible. So men would have visions of women coming back from the dead and haunting them because of their own guilt. Now, be careful what you believe, because if you believe there are ghosts, you can be haunted by them. And there are energies that live on, I believe, that live on after you die. But our eyes of the normal average person cannot see these energies. There are some that actually can see the energies of that regular normal people can't see. But the average person cannot see the energies, the frequencies of these energy that leaves your body after you die. They can be filmed and photographed, but are they haunting you? Are they turning lights on and locking doors without a physical body? I don't think so. I don't know for sure. This is just my opinion. From what I've read through religions around the world, before this discussion, I listened to a lot of Manly P. Hall and his discussions on ghosts and demons and a couple of other people. I wanted to get their opinions, and a lot of them were the same as how I feel. Because it's rational and reasonable, and there are energies, but maybe we're mistaking them. And that brings me to the second definition of what a ghost is. This is another definition, and this comes from the Cathars early on in the Catholic religion, which were the original Catholics, where they were Cathars, and they were ended up killed by the Catholic Church later on before their beliefs. But this definition goes like this. A ghost is a person who has killed the self or the ego. The ego death that lives, the ego... Let me start again. Excuse me. A ghost is a person who has killed the self or the ego. They call it the death of the ego, which is a process to awakening or enlightenment or rebirth, or all the names that they call this thing when you open up your pineal gland in your brain. And when someone does that, they're invisible to everybody else because other people don't know. They don't know that that person has had an awakening because they can't see inside his mind unless they tell them. And back then, you didn't want to tell anybody because you'd be killed. If you didn't agree with other people and their opinions, you would be killed for being a heretic, or, they'd think you were evil. So people didn't. So they were invisible to everyone else. And they could go around with this knowledge that comes from this awakening, this knowledge. The frontal lobe of the brain actually gets activated from your pineal gland, being activated through the knowledge and wisdom of understanding who you are and killing the ego. Not completely, it's just a rephrase that describes ego that people have way too much of. They think that ego is themselves, and they don't know what self is. When you start searching for yourself, you'll find that you are not your arm. You can cut off your arm and you still exist. You can cut off your other arm and you still exist. You're still you. Even if you cut off your legs or your whole body, you're nothing but a head and a jar. You're still you. So where is you? Where are you? Are you in your brain somewhere? Can you observe you? Can you say, okay, this right here, this part of my brain is me? And if you can do that, then I have to ask you, who's observing that? Who is saying that, doing the pointing? This is a process to understanding the self and who you are. and where the signals and thoughts come from. And this definition of a ghost is a person who has gone through this process. Because those that do, they want to help others. They're not evil, like some people think. They're not crazy. But they understand certain energies and realities of life, and they try to help other people from suffering. But they have to do it discreetly, invisibly, because in the time back then, if you if you had a different view or opinion about what God is, well, you'd be killed, because they didn't want those ideas spreading. They were too concerned with what other people think and not what they thought themselves. And people that do that will not like other people's opinions, because they think their opinions can influence other people, so that's why other people's opinions influence them. And that kind of a ghost is absolutely real. There are people, and there are many of them, that have this information, and they use it to change the world in big ways. They influence things. The whole planet is affected by these people, and how they use their knowledge and energy to affect others in positive ways. And that's basically the two definitions of ghosts. And one, I believe, exists inside your mind. And if you believe it exists, these ghosts that are spirits or energies of people that have lived and before, and they died, and then their energy lives on, that kind of ghost can really haunt people. It is real to the people that believe it. So be careful what you believe, because you can be haunted by ghosts. But this other definition, which is a much older definition of ghosts, probably the original meaning, is a person who has died in life. The self has died because the ego has died, and they live on invisible to others, and they can haunt people who do evil things, but they can also help people who are suffering. Now, let's move on to demons, because, I'm trying to put two different things in one video here, because, some people mistake them. And demons are definitely real, but they exist solely in your mind. Demons are thought processes that can create suffering, big suffering. These thought processes are usually taught to us as a young child, because, a child will believe anything. You can teach them to be a murderer. They're impressionable. They don't know right from wrong. If you keep them away from society, even if you put them in society, society will teach them, give them all kinds of demons. Absolutely. Teach them selfishness, greed, ungratefulness. And these thought processes come back to create suffering for you. Ungratefulness, people that have this thought process will end up living their lives never feeling fulfilled, never having enough. And they'll die unhappy, and their life is basically wasted. Now that's suffering, because you'll get one chance at life. Unless, of course, you come back in another life, because as the idea goes, that if you don't awaken or enlighten yourself in this lifetime, you will not ascend and move on to the next reality, the next level. And you'll have to come back and redo this life over until you learn. You're here to grow. And people that don't want this information and ridicule and rather talk about me, I mean, a lot of people's comments, not a lot, but there are some people that make comments on my videos, and they can't get past me. The way I talk, the way I dress, my beard, my glasses, my bald head, they're so superficial that they can't even concentrate on the conversation or the talk going on. You know, and I wish them the best, but you're not going to get knowledge if you don't listen. Sometimes you have to close this and open these. These are what you use to learn. This is what you use to teach. I'm here to teach. If I was here to learn, which I do a lot, I listen to lectures all the time, because I want to learn ever since you know, years ago when I had the spiritual awakening and enlightenment and the ego death and the whole thing. I had a craving for knowledge, and I just wanted to fill my head with as much knowledge as I can possibly pack in there, because it's here, and it gives you power. And there are secrets in life that are there for you if you want them. And some of them, if you don't learn them, you're going to miss out on the most amazing things in this world. But there are skeptics who think they already know it all, and there's nothing left more to learn. So they just waste time criticizing and not listening. But demons are thought processes that we have, and they're very, very real. And they can do damage, and sometimes they're very difficult because it's hard to change people's beliefs. That's the whole point. That's a process of going through enlightenment and killing the ego. Is you have to not believe anything. You have to unlearn everything you've learned and start fresh, without the influence of society and all the people trying to tell you things that they know nothing about. And children can be taught these demons, selfishness, greed, ungratefulness, and other thought patterns which can be very destructive and cause people to commit suicide. The suicide rate right now is high, because people can't cope with what's going on, because they have demons. Drug addicts have demons because they need something to get them through the day, because their suffering is so bad. And they can be conquered. You've got to face them. We all have them, even me. But I look at them, I see them, I understand them. Make friends with your demon, and they can work with you. There's good and bad in the world, and in everyone. The people out there that think that they're pure and there is no evil and nothing wrong ever in them are usually the most evil people there are, because they don't understand that there's good and bad in everything. Good, selflessness. Bad, selfishness. Anytime you have a selfish thought, it's evil. That's what it is. You have a selfless thought to help somebody else, that's good. That's God. And we need to get in touch with that side more, because that side, the good, the God in you, is what makes your life happier, gives you more power, keeps you from suffering. And it's very important to understand this about demons, because they create depression, anxiety, and a lot of emotional problems just from your thought processes. Now, I don't want to go up. I may go into this more in other videos, but the point here I'm trying to make, I think what a lot of people don't understand, is the Hermetic principle number 1. All is mind. The universe is conscious. The pineal gland in your brain is a light receiver. It receives light, energy. It has light receptors like your eye. That's why they call it the third eye, because it has light receptors in it. And it also opens your eyes to see things that others may not be able to see. The pineal gland in the brain releases melatonin and serotonin and DMT. These are mood altering, and they also help you with sleeping and awake. They're consciousness chemicals that the pineal gland releases. People that have a hard time sleeping at night, insomnia, well, their pineal gland is clogged. It's calcified. How does it get calcified? In different ways. You're not eating healthy. You're not thinking healthy. Sound mind, sound body, sound soul. Now, in our society today, it is difficult to eat healthy, drink healthy. Because, you're being taught to drink garbage and eat garbage every day. You turn the television on and, well, I don't have a television in my house. Threw it out years ago because I couldn't take it. And even now when I travel and I stay in hotel rooms, the TV never goes on because there's nothing on it I want to see. It's garbage. Absolute garbage on every station to lull you and entertain you. There are some things, I guess there are a few channels the last time I watched television that were interesting, but very few. You can find the truth and everything, all the secrets of life on the internet. But there's also all the lies and garbage is on there too. But if you use your mind, reason, understanding, and you question everything, the internet can provide you with everything you need. All the knowledge of every university on the face of the earth is on the internet for you to learn free. And nobody cares. They'd rather watch videos of cats or fails of people falling down. It's there for those who want it. If you don't want it, well, that's all right. You're going to come back in the next life and do it all over again. Go through the suffering until you learn. The suffering is trying to teach you something. The suffering is a teacher, and there is no better one. So, is the universe conscious? Does the sun is like a pineal gland, receives light from energy, from the universe, and it projects it onto those within its vortex. And that light, God is light. Without it, you wouldn't be here. It's everything. And there's a thing inside your brain called the pineal gland where you can connect with that. It makes you one with the light. And when you understand that, it also gives you certain powers and intuition. And the reason I bring all this up is because it brings me to psychics and fortune tellers. The psychics and the people that see ghosts and mediums. This is about intuition and understanding people. Fortune tellers, when you come into a room, they ask you a few questions that you may seem completely irrelevant. But from those few questions, they know a lot about you. When I see someone that I've never met before, just by the way they walk, tells me a lot about them, what they're wearing, their dressing, what they're driving. Tells me a lot about them. Their facial expressions, their body language, their aura. I can see that, so I know things about them. They have no idea. And that's how psychics or fortune tellers do it. They're using their intuition. The good ones, anyway, the enlightened ones, that's what they're doing. Now, mediums who speak to ghosts are, there are some people out there that can see energy that leave the body. Whether those energies can talk to them, I don't know. I really don't. I don't want to say it's not real, because maybe it is. Maybe they can see the energies. But I have a strong intuition that it's intuition. And that they understand the ghost of the person they're trying to connect with from the people that are there in the room with them. And from what I've watched and what I've seen, that's what's going on. Unless, of course, there is fakery and complete hoaxes, which there's a lot of that, too. But a true psychic or medium is using their powerful intuition. And don't doubt, because there's knowledge that enables people to use intuition. Their body language, the wrinkles on their face can tell people a lot about you. I knew someone whose upper lip was pursed. It was creased and had all these lines in them from being angry all the time. And after a while, they show up on your face. People who worry have wrinkles in their forehead, because they're always worrying. Oh, are you all right? Am I all right? Are they all right? The wrinkles, and they stay there. People who are concerned get the wrinkles in between the eyes. Your emotions show up on your face, and people that understand them can read them like a book. The worry lines are there for everyone to see. Now, of course, people do change, and the lines will still be there. But as you change, so does your body changes. And we change every day. There are some people who think, oh, people don't change, they always stay the same. No, that's ignorant. People change every single day by the new experiences, the new things you learn. Unless, of course, you don't learn anything. You're someone who just thinks they already know it all, and they don't want to learn anything new, and they don't bring in any new information. Well, yeah, maybe they will stay like they are now for a long time before they change. But people change every day. And that's my opinion on ghosts and demons, and it's also the opinion of a lot of occultists and mystery schools and Manly P. Hall, Madame Blavatsky. And Madame Blavatsky's a name I haven't brought up. I have read a lot of her stuff, Helena Blavatsky. I read a lot of Manly P. Hall, and I've read his books, and I listen to his lectures. Madame Blavatsky is very wise. She was one of the founders of the Theosophy Society. And if you watched my movie video about The Wizard of Oz, which it has been very popular, over 2,500 views last I seen, and people seem to like it, and I'm happy about that. I'm glad people are learning something and discussing it. But in the future, I will do more on Madame Blavatsky. People have asked me to discuss her, and I will. And I listen to all of your comments, and I try to interact with everybody because you're worth it. Simple as that. Thank you for watching and listening. It may have been a longer video than some of the others, but it's an interesting, controversial topic to discuss. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.